there, fantasy owners. Welcome to Lift the Cup Fantasy, or LTC Fantasy as some call it. Today's our Weekend Ads episode where it's kind of our last chance to find that piece you need to strengthen your roster and hopefully secure that win for you. Some things to note for the weekend. Friday there's only 5 games, Sunday there's 12 games, and Sunday there's 8 games. So we will focus on the light nights, Friday and Sunday, as that's probably where there's more room on that roster to get that player you need. We will mention some players from Sunday, but with 24 teams playing, I'll only mention players from teams that play either Friday and Saturday or Saturday and Sunday. That way that maximizes some value for you. Note that all the Friday teams play Friday and Sunday other than Washington and Columbus. They're the ones that play Friday and Saturday. Then we'll cover the remaining Sunday teams that don't play Friday. And all of these teams do play Saturday and Sunday, with the exception of Nashville, who only plays Sunday this weekend. Don't forget to look in the description, because I'll break it down to the Friday defensemen and forwards, and then your Saturday, Sunday defensemen and forwards, with the exception of Nashville, of course, that only plays Sunday. If you do need to come back to the video to find a different piece based on injury, roster needs, etc., don't forget to subscribe. That way it is easier to find that video in case you need to come back to it. So we'll jump right into it. Some Friday D-men. I look at Shane Gostisbehere from Arizona, only owned in 48% of Yahoo leagues. Plays in that top pairing and top power play unit, and he's been really good lately, having 8 points in his last 8 games. Going over to Calgary, I look at Noah Hannafin, only owned in 20% of Yahoo leagues. Plays in that top pairing with Anderson and is on the second power play unit. And he has 2 points in his last 3 games to go along with 10 shots on goal. Going over to Washington, look at Dmitry Orlov, owned in 51% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on that second pairing and second power play unit. He has 4 points in his last 9 games, so roughly about half a point per game. But in those 9 games, he also had some extra value, having 22 shots on goal and 14 blocks. Go over to Buffalo and Colin Miller, only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues. Plays in that third pairing. He just got back from injury, and he's had 2 points in the 2 games since coming back. Over in Philadelphia, I look at Rasmus Ristolainen, owned in 35% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on that second pairing, and he has 3 points in his last 6 games, so half point per game, which is nice. And in those 6 games, he has 21 hits and 18 blocks, so definitely adds some extra value there. Going over to Winnipeg, I look at Josh Morrissey, owned in 52% of Yahoo leagues. Plays in that top pairing and top power play unit, and he has 3 points in his last 3 games played to go along with 13 shots on goal and 5 hits in those 3 games. Another one from Winnipeg is Nate Schmidt, owned in 20% of Yahoo leagues. Plays in that third pairing and second power play unit, and he also has 3 points in his last 3 games. Last one's Mike Matheson from Pittsburgh, owned in 7% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on the second pairing and second power play unit, and he has 3 points in his last 5 games, and so over half point per game, and he also has 11 shots on goal and 12 hits in those 5 games. Go over to some Friday forwards for you. Nick Schmaltz, listed as center right winger, owned in 50% of Yahoo leagues. Plays in that top line and top power play unit, and he's pointless in the last 2 games, but he did put up 20 points in the 10 previous games, so just phenomenal production there. Another one from Arizona is Phil Kessel, listed as a right winger, owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on that second line and top power play unit, and he has 4 points in his last 4 games played. Another one from Arizona is Lawson Krause, listed as a left winger, only owned in 26% of Yahoo leagues, currently on that second line and top power play unit, and he has 10 points in his last 9 games, so over a point per game, and in those 9 games he's also shelled out 17 shots on goal and 26 hits. One from Calgary is Dylan Dubé, listed as center, left wing, and right wing, only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, currently on the second line and second power play unit, and he's been really good the last week, having 3 points in his last 3 games and having 8 shots on goal, so almost 3 shots a game. Going over to Washington, I look at Anthony Mantha, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 35% of Yahoo leagues, on that second line and second power play unit, and he has 4 goals and 1 assist in the last 7 games, so if goals are weighted higher, definitely something to look at. And in those 7 games, he's definitely been firing some rubber at the net, having 26 shots on goal. Go over to Buffalo, I look at Tage Thompson, listed as center, left wing, and right wing, owned in 53% of Yahoo leagues, plays in that top line and top power play unit, and he's been having a solid season. And over the last 4 games, he has 4 points with 17 shots on goal. So over 4 shots a game. That definitely adds some value for you if that's considered in your league. Going over to Philadelphia, I look at Kevin Hayes, listed as a center, owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues, with Drew gone, etc. He's on centering the top line and second power play unit, and he has 4 goals and 1 assist in his last 4 games, to go along with 10 hits and 10 shots on goal. So even those secondary stats are really good. Another one on his line is Travis Konechny, listed as a right winger, owned in 26% of Yahoo leagues, on that top line and second power play unit, and he has 6 points in his last 7 games, and he has 24 shots on goal, so 3.5 shots a game. Last one to close out that top line is Joel Farabee, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 15% of Yahoo leagues. Again, plays in that top line and second power play unit, and he has 5 points in his last 4 games played. And the last one from Philly is Cam Atkinson, listed as a right winger, owned in 58% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second line and top power play unit, and he has 8 points in his last 8 games played. We'll go over to Colorado and Valerie Nichushkin, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 41% of Yahoo leagues, up on that top line with McKinnon and Ratinen, and in the top power play unit, and he's really thrived the last week since bumped up there. He has 5 points in his last 3 games played, to go along with 11 shots on goal. Next one's Andrei Burakovsky, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 63% of Yahoo leagues, plays in that second line with Kadri and second power play unit, and he's had a really solid season all year, and he has 9 points in his last 12 games played. Go over to Winnipeg, I look at Paul Stastny, listed as center left winger, only owned in 8% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that top line and second power play unit, and he has 9 points in his last 11 games played. We'll go over to Columbus next. I look at Jack Roslovich, listed as center right winger. With Jenner out, he's centering the top line and top power play unit. He's only owned in 4% of Yahoo leagues, and he has 4 points in his last 4 games played. Sticking with one of his line mates is Gustav Nyquist, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 7% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that top line and top power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 8 games played, so basically point per game the last few weeks. Last one from Columbus is Oliver Bjorkstrand, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 55% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second line and top power play unit, and he's been super hot the last month and a bit here, having 13 points in his last 11 games played. We'll go over to Pittsburgh. I look at Ricard Raquel, listed as left winger, right winger, only owned in 21% of Yahoo leagues, but he's playing on that second line with Malkin and second power play unit, and playing with Malkin, I just don't see how he won't be valuable in fantasy. Next one from Pittsburgh's Jeff Carter, listed as center right winger, owned in 29% of Yahoo leagues, currently on the third line and second power play unit, and he has 5 points in his last 6 games played. Go over to the Rangers. I look at Ryan Strome, listed as center right winger, owned in 65% of Yahoo leagues, so he's might be harder to find, but he's still available in a third of the leagues. Plays on that second line with Panarin and top power play unit. He's pointless in the last 4 games, but before that he had 7 points in the previous 7 games played. And when he's regularly playing with Panarin and he's on that top power play unit with Panarin and Zibanejad, I just don't see how he won't produce. Next one's Alex Lafreniere, listed as left winger, right winger, only owned in 26% of Yahoo leagues, plays in that top line with Zibanejad and second power play unit, and he has an assist in 3 straight games. Last one's Vague Frank Vetrano from the Rangers now, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 7% of Yahoo leagues. He has 3 goals in his last 4 games, and he is playing with Panarin and Strome on that second line, and is on the second power play unit, so hopefully it should work out for him there. We'll go along to some defensemen that play Saturday and Sunday, with the exception of Nashville that only plays on Sunday this weekend. But Jared Spurgeon, owned in 58% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second line and top power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 9 games played. Next one's Mark Giordano, owned in 54% of Yahoo leagues. Going back to his hometown team in Toronto, currently listed as playing on the second pairing, and he was really good in Calgary. Seattle, he had not really much talent around him. Now he's going to have a ton of talent again in Toronto, so I don't see how that won't work out for him and be a valuable fantasy asset. We'll go over to Florida. I look at Ben Sherratt, owned in 23% of Yahoo leagues, slated to play on the top pairing, and he had 6 points in his last 4 games with Montreal before being shipped out, so I don't see how not being on the top pairing and having Florida's forwards in front of you, how that can't help out. Next one's Damon Severson from New Jersey, owned in 30% of Yahoo leagues, on that top pairing and top power play unit, and has been there for over a month now, even with Hamilton back. He's pointless the last 4 games played, but he did have 6 points in the previous 8 games before that. We'll go back to Montreal. I look at Jeff Petrie, owned in 57% of Yahoo leagues, on that top pairing and second power play unit. He has 3 points in his last 6 games, so half point per game, which is nice. And if the other stats are considered, he has 16 shots on goal and 23 blocks. Sticking with Montreal, I look at Chris Weidman, owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues, on that third pairing and top power play unit, and he has 4 points in his last 6 games played. Mentioning Nashville, they only play Sunday, but one defenseman's Matthias Ekholm, owned in 29% of Yahoo leagues. He did miss last game due to illness, but he should be back in time for Sunday. Second pairing, second power play, and he has 4 points in his last 6 games played to go along with 19 shots on goal, so definitely adding some value there. Last one is Ryan Pulock from the Islanders, owned in 26% of Yahoo leagues, plays on the second pairing and second power play unit, and he has 8 points in his last 9 games played to go along with 19 blocks and 20 shots on goal. We'll look at some Sunday forwards. Remember, all of these play Saturday and Sunday with the exception of Nashville. And I look at Lucas Raymond from Detroit, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 51% of Yahoo leagues, currently on the top line and top power play unit, and he has 4 points in his last 5 games played to go along with 16 shots on goal. Go over to Toronto. I look at Michael Bunting, listed as a left winger, owned in 52% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that top line with Matthews and Marner and the second power play unit, and he thrives up there, having 13 points in his last 11 games played. Another one from Toronto is Alex Kerfoot, listed as center, left wing, and right winger, owned in 14% of Yahoo leagues, currently on that second line with Tavares, and he has 5 points in his last 5 games played to go along with 7 blocks, which is nice block total for a forward. We'll go over to Florida. I look at Carter Verhaeghe, listed as center, left winger, owned in 58% of Yahoo leagues, is playing on that top line with Giroux and Barkov, and is on the second power play unit, and he has 8 points in his last 8 games played. And now with playing with Giroux and Barkov, I don't see how that can't improve. Next one's Anthony Duclair, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 64% of Yahoo leagues, on that second line with Huberdeau and second power play unit, and he has 9 points in his last 10 games played to go along with 30 shots on goal. So if shots are considered, definitely look at him. Next one's Anton Lundell, listed as a center, owned in 22% of Yahoo leagues, currently hurt, but he is practicing this week and should be back soon, so look to see if he is back for the weekend. And he was on a torrid pace before the injury. He was centering that third line and on the second power play unit. Don't see how that changes much with him coming back. We'll go over to New Jersey. I look at Yegor Sharangovic, listed as center, left wing, and right winger, owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues, on that top line and second power play unit, and he has 5 points in his last 6 games with 16 shots on goal. Another one from New Jersey's Jesper Bratt, listed as center, left winger, right winger, owned in 63% of Yahoo leagues, currently on that second line and top power play unit, and he's been hot all year, but he's been even hotter, having 10 points in his last 7 games. Last one from New Jersey's Nico Hischier, listed as a center, owned in 31% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second line and top power play unit, and he's been hot as well, having 9 points in his last 7 games played. Look at a couple from Montreal. I look at Cole Caulfield, listed as left winger, right winger, only owned in 65% of Yahoo leagues. Probably last week I mentioned him just because he's up to 65%. He's on that top line and top power play unit, and man, what a second half of the season he's had. He has 14 points in the last 12 games to go along with 38 shots on goal. Another one from Montreal's Rem Pitlick, listed as center, left wing, and right wing, owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues, currently centering that second line and second power play unit, and he has 8 points in his last 7 games played. A couple from Nashville for you is Ryan Johansson, listed as a center, only owned in 31% of Yahoo leagues, centers that top line and top power play unit, and he has 11 points in his last 11 games played. Another one from Nashville's Mikael Granlund, listed as center and right winger, owned in 40% of Yahoo leagues, currently centering that second line and top power play unit, and he has 4 points in his last 3 games played. We'll get a few from the Islanders. I look at Brock Nelson, listed as a center, owned in 32% of Yahoo leagues, currently centering that top line and top power play unit, and he has 11 points in his last 10 games played, to go along with 29 shots on goal. Another one from the Islanders is Anders Lee. Not too many have been hotter. Listed as a left winger, owned in 47% of Yahoo leagues. He's on that top line and top power play unit, and he has 9 goals and 2 assists in the last 8 games played. So if goals are weighted higher, definitely take a strong look at him. Another one from the Islanders is Kyle Palmieri, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 9% of Yahoo leagues. He's on that third line and second power play unit. He's been pointless the last 2 games only, but before that he had a 6-game point streak where he had 7 points. And the last one's Brandon Hagel from Tampa Bay now. Listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 12% of Yahoo leagues. Currently on the third line and second power play unit. He only played 10 minutes in his Tampa Bay debut. That probably had a lot to do with travel. Should be back up in the 13 to 14, maybe 15 minute mark going forward. And before he arrived in Tampa, he had 6 points in his last 4 games with Chicago. Really hope these ads do help you out. We'll be out in a few days with our Week 23 strategy episode. If you did like the video, please remember to hit like, hit subscribe, and remember that notification bell so you hear about future episodes. And good luck to all you fantasy owners out there.